For this tutorial today, I'm going to show you how to take images from Lightroom, open them in Adobe Photoshop, and quickly merge the two images together to create a combined portrait or a portrait that's merged with a background using the layer functions in Photoshop. Right now I'm looking at my Lightroom catalog, and what I've done is I've put a few selected images into an album. I've called them merged portraits. I have two portraits on the right and left, and then several different options for backgrounds. I'd like you to try, and you should really try to experiment with different types of backgrounds that have different values, backgrounds that have a lot of sky, backgrounds that have a lot of earth or ground in them, backgrounds that are very gray, backgrounds that are very contrasty, just to see what happens when you merge them. So the first step I'm going to need to do is download these pictures. So by clicking on them and hitting this download button here, I'm going to download the full-size JPEG with latest edits, and temporarily, just to make it easy for me, I'm going to put it in my downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for the portraits that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and do that for a few of the backgrounds and then experiment with them. You can try to download all of them at the same time. The only disadvantage to that is the computer will want to merge them together into a special folder called a zipped folder that has to be unzipped and unpacked, and sometimes, even though this takes a little bit more time to do it individually, sometimes it just ends up being a lot easier. So now I'm going to go over to Photoshop. I'm going to open, and I'm going to look at my downloads, and here are all of them. I will start with a background just to see what happens. So I'm going to open this background here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go to File, and I am going to Place Embedded. I'm not going to go to Open because that will end up opening a new tab. If you go to File, Place Embedded, I can pick a different picture and hit Place, and it will put it right inside the document, which is really convenient for doing this. You can resize this image, or you can resize the background. What I'm hoping to do right now is to merge the two together to show you what's happening. So the first thing I have to do when you place embedded is I have to hit this checkbox, and that is going to commit the transformation so that this is the size that I want it. And over here on this layer, I'm going to go ahead and try different transparency options just to see what happens. This is on the layers palette. What it's doing is it is affecting how this layer overlays on top of the layer behind it. And you can see that if you move this image around to different areas, it will be affected differently. It looks different over the textured surface of the ground as it does over the clouds in the sky. You can play with the order and orientation that you do all of these with. So one of the things that I see right now is I don't like all this extra space. So what I'm going to actually try to do is go to File, Open, and I'm going to open this image by itself, and then I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, and now I'm going to grab a backdrop. And I tried that backdrop, so I'm going to try something different. Let's try this one. Let's drag it larger so that it fills the frame. And then what I can simply do is hit the checkbox and then go over to my layers palette and test out the different layer transparency options to see if there's one that I like. Experiment with having the background on top, having the portrait on top. Experiment with all the different layer transparency options. This is very, very easy to do. Another option that you have is on this layer to affect the opacity of it, so you can have it where it is a little bit lighter and more transparent. And again, if I wanted to switch the order, I can take this layer, set it to normal, make sure it's 100% opacity, and I can take the background layer and move it on top. I might not let me do that until I copy the background by dragging it to this plus button. and then I can move the background on top, which is now my my portrait, and I can play around with the different transparency options that I have here. One last thing that you could experiment with as you do this is to actually affect or change the opacity of certain parts of the image that you have that's on top. And you do that by clicking on this button right here, which looks like a rectangle with a circle on it. You're going to click on that. It creates something called a mask. You can go over to your toolbox, change the color of the that you're using, the color that's on top of this top box, and I can go to a brush tool. So I'm going to just go to the regular brush tool. I'm going to come up here and make the size of the brush fairly large. I'm going to take the opacity of the brush down, and what you can do is you can erase into the layer, changing the transparency of certain parts of the image. And you can see this right here, that what it's doing is it's blocking out parts of the image, making it more transparent. This will be more apparent if I go back to normal. You can actually see what's happening. I'm sort of erasing parts of that image, revealing the image behind. This is just a highly experimentative process. Try out lots of different things, and sometimes you'll luck out and you'll get some really interesting combinations of images based off of what you're doing. When you're done, always save your file twice. Save it as a PSD Photoshop file. I'm going to call this merged portrait. If you're saving your things, I would definitely put it in the student S drive under your folder. But right now, just for ease, I'm going to put it in my downloads folder so that I have everything there. And if this is something that I want to share or I want to print and do something different with other than Photoshop, you're going to go to File, Export, and you're going to export as a JPEG image. I'm going to take the quality as high as I can go, and I'm going to export that. And I'll do that there as well. That's it.